Good morning. Good morning. I think we are live. Is my audio working? If you can hear me, I think we're live. If you can hear me, say hello in the chat. There we go. I think we're live. Getting a little bit of a earlier start today than I have been in the last week or so. I was able to get my daughter on the bus this morning. Didn't have to take my son to school. He actually woke up on time today, so I was able to get a few trades in already. So far in pre-market here, I took 3 trades. We got this. We had 3 consecutive higher lows on the signal line, and I was actually getting my daughter ready for school here, so I probably would have jumped into one of those had I been there, but I ended up jumping in on this tick up above this rising delta. So I jumped in right there, and I rode that until this lower high. And then we had a bull flag breakout set up, so I jumped back in here on this tick up. The first one we got 41.5 points. The second one I exited on this red triangle, this delta cross here, for another 24.25 points. And then I jumped in on this tick up from the lower power zone, and I took that until this tick down from the upper power zone. And then I felt like I was kind of pushing it since we're getting close to the open here, so but we ended up just now, as we went live, ended up getting somewhat of a delta squeeze setup. The delta is actually starting to turn negative here, so this could be a short in the works. We will keep a close eye on it. The market opens in 2 minutes. Go ahead and turn my 8 SMA on. Looking at the higher time frames, we are bullish on the hourly. We are very bullish on the 15. And we are bullish on the 5 minute. So we are in full bull mode. Should be looking for longs. As far as the market condition goes that we outlined in the playbook, so we were in a steady uptrend here. We had a little bit of turbulence here, but now this delta is back in this upper power zone. So we could be going into a sustained uptrend, but the open of the market here could change everything really quick. So we're just going to sit tight and wait. But if we were to take this signal, this was a short here on this red triangle, the delta squeeze. And the market is open. That actually might end up playing out here. So we'll simulate this one. We'll simulate that we jumped in on this delta squeeze, which is detailed in the playbook. So that's this red triangle. That's the close of this candle right here. That looks like so far it has marked the top, which it's pretty darn good about doing. Good morning, Sarif. You're in short. Well, you are on the right side at the moment, so that's good. Did Bitcoin break 100K? I don't think it actually broke it. Let's check it out. I know we got pretty close. Looks like it went to 98,352. I think we're definitely going to break it here pretty soon. We will see. Starting to get a tick up from that lower green zone. And if you got short there, I hope you covered pretty quickly. Nice, you made 600 on that. That's good. Well, if I was in that mood, I probably would have had my stop at break even, and we would have been broke even there, but we were simulating that, so. We're back up to that pivot line. That's the orange line up there. We bounced off the previous day high. That's this blue line right here. So we'll see what happens here. We do have a little bit of chop coming into play. We have that alternating delta, so I'll go ahead and mark that out. Still could be a short here. We'll see. So far it's looking kind of ugly. Delta is negative and turning down now. We did get a lower high on that signal line. Looked like a strong rejection off that pivot line there. You see how accurate those pivot lines are? They always seem to amaze me. Now, if I wanted to be more aggressive here, I could have shorted this lower high. I'm always a little reluctant to do that right at the open. But it does look like the short side is where it's at. And again, that delta squeeze here. Let's see if I use my 80 tick stop, if that would have worked. Nope, that would have still been too shallow on that one. So I would have got stopped out if I wasn't break even on that. Look at these delta candles. See how fat they're getting. That is a nice momentum move to the downside. So if anybody was able to jump into that, congratulations. That was a good move. I was thinking about, after this rejection on the pivot line, this lower high in the signal with the delta going negative again. I was thinking about shorting that, but like I said, it's so hard to do that like right at the open, because I always feel like the first 15 minutes can get really choppy. But hey, when it starts moving right out of the gate like this, that is always nice. Not only is it moving, but it's moving really, really nice here. These are the kind of moves that we're looking for. Starting to wish I wasn't a little gun shy on that one. We'd be up like 125 points right here. Yeah, if you are going to jump into those moves right there at the open, you got to be quick on them. You can't really hesitate. Right back to the daily open and VWAP. VWAP's the dark blue line there. Still have massive delta candles to the downside, getting bigger. But I suspect we'll have somewhat of a little hesitation here on VWAP around this area. Not a bad place to take profit if you were short there. But this is such a strong momentum move that if it was any other time of the day, I would hold through this and wait for more of a thin delta cross to exit. It's sliced right through VWAP so far. 155 points that would be up right now if you took this lower high. Back to the other pivot. We went straight from one pivot down to the other pivot without a single hesitation. And it touched it to the penny. Let's see if we bounce here. And down we go again. Wow. Look at those massive delta candles. That is the type of move you want to catch right there. So if you were just trading the signals off the cumulative delta, the first one was this delta squeeze, might have got stopped out there. Second was this lower high with this would be under, in the playbook, that would be under the impulsive move breakout. So this candle is bigger than the previous one. It's a negative candle. The previous was positive. So you can take this tick down underneath the delta there. And was that an impulsive move? So it was valid. Sometimes though, I just get, like I said, I get gun shy right there at the open. And it is still just collapsing here. See if Bitcoin's doing the same. Yeah, Bitcoin is pulling back a little. 222 points so far you'd be in this move if you took it. And still falling. Yeah, at this point, if I was in this move, I would be waiting for the proper exit signal here, which we still don't have. Another thing you can do is wait for a close above the 8. Another option is if you wanted more of the scalpy option. A lot of times, if I just want to hurry up and bag my profits, trailing the wicks. It's like here, this high, the high of this candle, the high of this candle, the high of this candle, high of this candle, high of this one, and then the high of this one. This is where, if you were trailing wicks, you would have been out right here when it broke that high. That's still 194.5 points if you were to do that. But if you're looking for the bigger move, there's always a trade-off, you know? If you look for the bigger move, you might only bag half of it if you don't end up getting the bigger move. Trailing the wicks is something that I've always found is kind of like a nice, happy medium. in between like your standard exit signals and because even on these big impulsive moves, it still captures a nice majority or the bulk of that move by trailing those wicks. Another thing you could do is just take it to the first tick up, which would be here. So then you would have been out on this candle. It's still 164 points. But if you're waiting for the big exit signal, that has not happened yet. As long as this signal line stays under this delta and the delta stays fat, if you're looking for the bigger move, you want to stay in those. Such an abrupt drop that we had there. You can see on the 15 how the delta candles were nice and strong and bullish, and it went from a strong bullish delta to immediately a negative fat delta candle on the 15. On the 5, we have our fat delta candles growing. On the hourly, we had a nice strong positive delta candle here, and then it just tapered down to a negative candle. We're ticking down from near that upper power zone on the hourly, so this could go bearish. But technically in the hourly still bullish, even with that drop. We did get another tick down here in that lower power zone, but this delta candle is smaller than the previous one. So that is not an impulsive move breakout from the playbook. In other words, you don't want to short that. Starting to put in our first higher low in that lower power zone, but I still would not go long there yet. Wow. If you look at our ATR, the green number there, it's at 125. That's really high. So 80 tick stop is going to be too small for something like that. So put my template on here. That's what an 80 tick stop looks like. So it doesn't even cover like one of these candles. So say you were to jump in there, I mean, you could still be right and still get stopped out. So you want to size down considerably, preferably, so you can put your stop at the low if you are going to go long. That's like 67 points just in your stop. So too high for me. Stealth, good morning. Traded London, which sucked. Missed pre-market, which seemed much better. Yeah. Yeah, I got a few trades in pre-market today. I had some extra time this morning. It was definitely a little easier to trade. Delta starting to taper down near that lower power zone. We might get a delta cross here. Still pretty risky to long that, but we did close above the 8. So I was talking about earlier, that could be another option for a and exit, wait for the close above the 8. So if you were in a short there, you would have had 161 points on that. Back up to VWAP. Looks like we're about to test the daily open line. Which also coincides with the 20 EMA. Might find a little resistance there. I haven't looked at news yet this morning. Well, I did previously, but not on the stream. Let's check that out really quick. Let's go to trading timer news. Looks like the next event is at 9 a.m. So that's in 12 minutes. Existing home sales. That usually jostles the market a little bit. We already had unemployment. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, as far as U.S. news, we don't have anything until 8:45 a.m. Manufacturing PMI, flash services PMI, and then consumer sentiment at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So not big ones. That'll maybe throw a little chop in the market right there, but I don't think that should affect the market too much from today's standpoint. So are we going to V-bottom out of here, or what's going to happen? Those Delta candles are making a U-turn. They're positive now. They're getting fatter, so the buyers are currently overpowering the sellers. You know, this first Delta cross that's near a power zone right here, a lot of times that is a good entry. It's not in the playbook, but I always mention that. That's so I usually use that more so for a take profit point if I'm going the other direction. But usually, so here's the cross right here. So you'd be in right here. If you use that, went up 64 points so far from that point. So not a bad entry if you wanted to scalp those. Now, that's not every cross. It's the first cross after a drop. So like, see how we dropped from the upper half of the indicator down here? The first cross that occurs by that lower power zone is usually good. Now, if the Delta was going to flatten out and it wasn't going to do this U-turn here, then it might not be as profitable. See if there's an example here too. So here we came from the lower half. We came up. Now we're above the Delta, and we have our cross right here. So that would be like in here. So a little bit of a down move there. But like I said, you're kind of going against the larger trend there, so a little risky. That's why it's not in the playbook. So we made it through that 21. Looks like now we're back to the 50 and the 200, which have confluence there at that point. So we'll probably find a little resistance there. Caught the bounce. Awesome. Done for the day. That is good. Now you can be a spectator. Or go enjoy the day. So when you say you caught the bounce, did you take this high or low, or what did you take? Or were you using something completely different? Now she's wanting to pull back a little here. Back under that 8 SMA. So we did react off that 200 there. I'm going to size down here. Get ready for my next trade. Because that number is still through the roof, sitting at 131. You can get burned really quickly on that. Closed under that 8 SMA. We just retested the 8. Under normal circumstances, when the ATR is lower, I probably would have jumped in a short there on the 8. But I'm just going to sit on my hands for now with this volatility. We are putting in a little bit of a higher low tick up on the signal line above that rising delta. But kind of feels like that rising delta was just a little bit of a dead cat bounce here. So we are technically still bearish with the delta underneath that downward sloping confirmation line. So shorts are still what you should be looking for. Three-bar reversal bought the 5-minute up candle at 706. Oh, 706, way up there. Okay. Nice trade. We're back under VWAP now. Let's see where the session VWAP is. It's the orange line. See this orange line right here? See how price went right up to that orange line, which has confluence with the 50 and the 200 right there. But see how price just stayed right under that? That's the session VWAP. I a lot of times think that the session VWAP works better than the main VWAP that most people use. And all that is, it's an anchored VWAP that's anchored to the start of the session, which I have at my 7 a.m. Central Time. So it's just an anchored VWAP. That delta is rounding over. A little bit of a pump there, but looks like she still wants to go down. And with that impulsive move down, this looks like a big bear flag. Which prop firm are you trading? Today I'm trading Apex. I usually trade a personal account. Stealth, does Zeiierman have Black Friday sales? I think they actually are doing a Black Friday sale. I think I saw something about that. Let me check. I don't see anything on their website, but I thought I saw something. Maybe in the Discord group. So if you guys hear my watch going off, I'm going to go ahead and silence that. Could be kind of annoying. Where did I see that? Oh, yeah, it wasn't the Zeiierman group. Zeiierman posted at 5:10 this morning. Black Friday with Zeiierman. Opt into our email list to be the first to receive our early access perks. Stay tuned, traders. So it looks like they haven't actually released the deal yet, but I think one's coming. So this second tick down here, it didn't quite make it to the red zone. It was like right there at the midline. You could have taken that for short. Only reason why I stayed out, and see how the delta's turning at the point when that happens right here? The reason why I stayed out was only because this ATR is 132. Well, that's 4 times ATR is what that number is. And anytime it gets above like 70, I like to use an 80 tick stop, and it's just too shallow. See how shallow that is? So you either size down, and look at it, even after this, it looks like it just went down from there, but it actually came all the way up here. It would have, I would have gotten away with it, but it almost hit that 80 tick stop. If you were to go above this candle's high, you'd have to risk 30 points. So that's the only reason why I stayed out of that, but the move would have worked. And now we have that nice flow back into the delta candles to the downside. So what we want to see, we want to see flow. We want to see consistency. What we don't want to see is this kind of stuff. See how it's thin and alternating? That's what we don't want to see. When the market's doing that, you're better off walking away. But as long as it's putting in these nice sweeping moves like this, you can really take advantage of the market there. I'm going to go ahead and flip our 5-minute tag here to bearish because see how the delta is finally now under that confirmation line. The confirmation line now has a negative slope to it. Delta is still aggressively pushing to the downside. So the 5-minute, go ahead and flip that bearish. On the 15, we have a negative delta, but we still have a positive confirmation line. We're still above the delta, so technically those two time frames are in disagreement. Same with the hourly. But the 1 should always take priority. So all the signals that happen on, well, whatever your entry time frame is, for me it's the 1. So I look at the higher time frames more so to try to catch a bigger move. It changes more my exit strategy as opposed to my entry strategy. Still have that nice consistent flow of the delta candles here on the 1. We are flashing a tick down below that delta candle. Our ATR number is still through the roof, so still kind of risky either way, even if you're right. But what I was looking for is to see if this would be an impulsive move breakout entry. And this candle does not look bigger than this one, so that would not be, technically from the playbook, that's not valid to try to short that. It still might end up working and play out, but it's not an ideal setup. Starting to put in a little bit of a hammer candle here. Well, we made a move from directly from one pivot point down to the next. We'll see if we hit this one down here. Let's see how that would have worked out if we did take that signal at 9:05. You would have been short here. Yeah, almost no drawdown on that one. If you're only looking for 30 points, you would have got it. Yeah, a little bit of possible divergence here for me. We don't technically have a higher low in the signal, but it's almost like equal lows, and we have a very distinct lower low here on the price. Starting to see delta turning up here in that lower power zone. We're starting to get a delta cross. Well, technically, if I cut my size in half, my 80 tick stop could become 160 tick stop. That would look more like this. That looks better than 80. I think that's what I'm going to do for now. Delta's starting to turn up, but it's still negative. Delta candles are still orange. So sellers still in control here. Now they're starting to flash positive. The delta is tapering to a fine point. It's flashing white. So if you're looking for more of a long scalp, this is probably an area for that. However, it still does not satisfy my requirements for long, so what I would like to see, so I want to see the signal come down somewhere in here and tick up, all while the delta keeps rising, and not just rise, but be positive while it's rising. We are starting to get a tick up from the power zone on the 5. Now, if you look right here, see how there was that hesitation there? That's almost like a tick down and a tick up, but it had so much strength to it that we never actually got the tick down. So if you wanted to be more aggressive, you can take those two for a long, if you would have done that. Well, then you'd be buying this giant candle right here. But those are typically pretty good because it's like a short squeeze to the upside, so price usually moves pretty good. So even with the 80 tick stop, I mean, there's like no drawdown there. It already went over 30 points. As I was saying earlier, that the delta cross that happens in a power zone after a drop, it's usually a good trade. It's not in the playbook, but if you were to take that, that's this one here. It's a little bit of an earlier entry, but if you use the low for your stop, that also would have worked. Be up 75 points now. It always feels weird doing that though, because you're going against what seems to be the current. But as you can see, like you can have these abrupt pullbacks like this and still be profitable on those trades. Stealth, that was exactly my trade. Okay, yeah. Yeah, those typically work pretty well. Now we are back up to the 50 and the VWAP again. This might have just been a liquidity sweep here under this low to go back to the upside. We'll see. If it keeps climbing like it is, the delta is going to cross the confirmation line back to the upside. We do have delta tapering on the 5, and that tick up from that lower power zone on the 5. See how that's playing out even on that higher time frame. That's the thing with the cumulative delta. It's all fractal, so it works on every time frame. I like entering on the 1 minute, but if you prefer the 5 or the 15, it works there too. Or the 2 or the 3. And we have a lot of gap in here to potentially come down and fill. "15-second is fun. I've eyeballed the 15-minute, but I've never actually traded it. I should try that one of these days. I'm sorry, did I say minute? I meant second. 15-second. Maybe I did say second. We're starting to flash a tick down from that upper power zone. In order to go short there, I prefer to see more tapering in the delta. You don't want to see the delta getting thicker. Usually that just means it's not done pushing. It might make one more little push here and potentially make a lower high up here in that upper power zone on the signal line. ATR's coming down a little bit. We're down to like 111. I actually prefer if it comes down even more. Delta's starting to taper now. Hasn't closed under the 8 yet. Closed right on the 8. Tried to pull up. The delta is starting to cross that confirmation line, so I'm still waiting to see more of a lower high get put in there on that signal line. And I prefer to see a delta that's flattening out or rolling over, starting to turn negative. We want to look for a weak delta. Signal is ticking up a little here. We did end up getting that delta cross on the 1. So the 1 is starting to turn more bullish. We'll see if it's short-lived though. We are starting to get our lower high there. We got a red triangle. The delta is getting a lot thinner now. It is starting to roll over. And there comes the big candle. Shoot. I don't like buying the big candles though. Now, if this was like a little candle up there, I'd be more interested in jumping in that. But you know, when I see a big candle like that, and if I still want to get in the trade, instead of just entering there, put a limit order on the 8. I'll go ahead and give that a shot. It might, and the problem with that is you might end up missing the trade. It might never get back to the 8. But if you're just going to take the signal that we talked about, that's right here. That's the short. If using a 160 tick stop, that'd be up there. So far, you'd be in profit. Almost no drawdown there. I'm going to go ahead and cancel my order on the 8. It went without me. Sometimes a train will leave the station if you don't just jump on those. But you see how we anticipated this move ahead of time? We mapped it out. It did exactly that. It put in our lower high. Delta started to turn. It flashed negative on that lower high. That was your entry. I'm just trying to be a little more conservative today because this ATR value is still higher than I prefer. However, if I would have been taking these, you can see we would have been making a killing right now. Sometimes I think you should just ignore some of the external information. Sometimes you think you're doing yourself a favor and you might be doing the opposite. On the 5, we are ticking back down under that aggressively falling delta. That time it went back to the normal VWAP. Let's see where the session VWAP is here. Didn't quite make it to the session VWAP in that case. 15 still gaining momentum on those delta candles. They're getting thicker. Looks like we're probably going to have a confirmation line cross on there. Maybe in within 30 minutes if it keeps dropping. Yeah, this move would have been really good. Still dropping. It looks like it's making a run for this pivot line. Again, straight from one pivot to the next. See what we look like on a higher time frame. See where we might be going. Yeah, look at that drop. Wow. Do have a order block here on the 15. Go ahead and mark that out. Looks like we're going to hit that pretty soon. Oh yeah, we're like right there. It's like right under that pivot. And we just hit it. This is the hourly. We also have previous day low down here. We have the previous week low underneath this hourly order block. Still no signs of a bounce though. Delta's still gaining momentum to the downside. Now we're starting to see a little bit of a tick up from that lower power zone. We'll see if the delta starts tapering here. But the previous day low is so close. You would think it would want to go at least tap that first. Well, it's been over an hour and I haven't taken a single trade. Market's been moving really nice though. Big candles. Looks like we wicked right up to that 8 and sold off. That would have been an amazing entry. If you're trying to jump in a short here, this also looks like a somewhat of a bear flag forming here. Back above the 8 now. Let's see if it closes above the 8. Looks like we are putting in a little bit of a bounce here. We're also going to get another delta cross from that lower power zone. So if you want to be really aggressive and go for a long here, the 8 is probably your best entry. Either that or back down here on that. It might make somewhat of a double bottom here. So back on that order block would be an even better entry if you can get it. But that delta is still negative, so it's still kind of risky here. And on the 5, we're still pushing down very aggressively. So if you want to go with the flow, you should probably just wait for a short. We did wick to the 8, pulled up a little bit. So if you did take that trade, you'd be in right here. You would have got your 30 points if you were looking for 30. You know, that's another thing. If you're looking to play the short game and are only looking to get like 30 points in a trade, using these signals, you could do that over and over again. And a lot of times I kind of struggle with myself, wondering whether or not I should play more of the short game instead of trying to get these big moves all the time. Because all those short trades, they all add up, you know. You could actually do better trading that way than always going for the bigger move. Delta is starting to turn up now. It was flashing positive down there. If you are in a long, that's good news for you. Looks like we're rejecting a little bit off of that 20 EMA. Starting to head back down. We are ticking down. Delta starting to turn negative again. Which is to be expected with these overall downtrend moves we're putting in. Back below the 8 now. And we're retesting that order block again. So far, the Delta still has somewhat of a positive slope to it, even though the candles are negative. So if we get a tick up here and Delta starts to turn positive again, that's a potential long setup. It does go against what the 5 minutes telling you. Looks like that Delta wants to kind of roll over here so far. Not seeing many buyers step in yet. Hey, can you guys still hear me? Looks like my microphone might be almost dead. It's a battery-powered microphone, so I gotta charge it. Can't believe how long the battery lasts, though. Like, I can, on one charge, I can go like 2 weeks. It's crazy. Let me know if this changes anything in the audio, by the way. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Okay, we are starting to get a tick up here. Delta's starting to turn positive. I'm going to go ahead and take a shot at this one. I am long here. And this is a setup we were anticipating. We want to see this positive slope on the delta. We want to see it turn positive, and we want to see this tick up above the delta. In the playbook, that's called a delta squeeze. And it is playing out beautifully so far. And it's nice when you have this extra confluence. You have this order block, you got the pivot line. All of that should act as support. Go ahead and move to break even. Be nice if we could make it back up to that pivot up there. Kind of doubt that we will, but we'll see. Also have VWAP up there. The delta is turning up, gaining some strength. We are ticking up on the 5 in that lower power zone. Delta on the 5 is starting to taper a little bit, not a whole lot. We're also ticking up on the 15. And the 15 is, looks like we're going to close under that confirmation line as well. So the 15 is going to technically flip bearish. However, you see how the confirmation line is kind of straight down the middle on the 15? That tells me that we're more just ranging on the 15. So on the 15, buying these lower power zones and selling the upper power zones, that's the market condition we're technically in on the 15. Trade's still looking good. Looks like we're going to get a confirmation line cross on the 1. So the delta is turning up with a little bit more strength. I want to see more strength in the delta, though. Still still a little weak. See how it's not as strong as like this turn up that, the last one that we had? See how those delta candles are just a little bit smaller? We're already starting to get some tapering. So this just might be a little pullback in the downtrend. But we're going to stay in as long as we don't have an exit signal. Still no reason to exit. Our signal is in that upper power zone. We are starting to get a tick down here, so this would be the first take profit point. We'll see where we close. Got 30 seconds. So far, we're up about 68 points. Signal is getting some energy back into it. We're no longer ticking down. Looks like we're bouncing a little bit on that 50. So no reason to exit yet. Starting to form that tick down from the upper end of that power zone. Keeps getting bought up right away though, so still holding. All right, I'm out. Ended up getting 77.75 points on that. That puts us at 159.25 for the day. It still might continue the upside here, but it's nice to secure the bag. It's still a really good move. It's 311 ticks. But yeah, I do have a feeling it's going to want to push here a little bit. We'll see. We're still above the 8. So if you were buying the 8 as your entry strategy, you'd be in right here. Still a little risky though up in this upper power zone with this delta that still not, I mean it's consistent, but it's still not as strong as these other ones. So I wouldn't go long up there. Now this might end up forming a bull flag. So that's another thing that we want to keep our eye on, is if we start to consolidate here and then we get another tick up with positive delta that's still relatively strong, then we could jump back in. Could you guys do me a favor and hit that like button? Looks like we only got a few likes on the video. Be nice to help the algorithm out a little bit. I would appreciate that. So we still have a rising delta. Looks like it's starting to get a little bit more strength here in this next candle. We are ticking up. We are breaking our bull flag trend line. So this is technically a bull flag breakout entry. I prefer if the candles are closer to the trend line than this giant one here. So you could put a limit order a little bit lower near the 8 for a better potential entry if you're looking to go long here. That is going to be my strategy. Even if you just entered on the close of that candle, looks like you would still be doing pretty good. See, the point that this delta crossed this confirmation line, that's the point where the bulls really took control. All that's detailed out in the playbook. Same for over here. See where the delta crossed under the confirmation line? The bears took control. So this whole time it's been under. That's when your shorts are more in your favor. And now that we're back above, the longs are more in your favor. No, you guys were asking about a Zeiierman Black Friday sale earlier. If you do end up going in on the Black Friday sale, if you could use my affiliate link in the description, I would definitely appreciate that. That'll help me out a little bit. I do get a little bit of a kickback from that, and you actually get a a discount from that, but it's a win-win for everybody. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cancel my order. It doesn't look like it's going to come back down to that 8 anytime soon. But if you entered on the close of that candle, you'd still be in the profit here. You'd be up about 30 points. But this exact entry right here, what just played out, all of that is detailed in the playbook as well. Starting to put in our first lower high on the signal line, which is a little bit of bearish divergence here. We did have a really strong push back up to that 200. So we'll see what she wants to do here. The delta's still in the lower half. See if we get a pullback and get more of a long setup. She still wants to push though. If any of you guys took that bull flag breakout entry, you should be sitting pretty nice right now. Be up about 70 points. We're back up to the daily open, so we'll see how we react off of this, or if we do. We might slice right through it. Starting to get our third tick down from that upper power zone off that daily open. Not a bad place to take profit if you're in a long there. But keep in mind, this delta is still climbing steadily, so if you wanted to capture the entire full move and you could stomach the pullbacks, what you want to do is you want to wait until this delta gets up here near the power zone, starts to roll over, have this confirmation line kind of follow, and then eventually you'll end up getting a delta cross in here. And in this area, that's where you would end up taking profit if you think this is going to continue into more of a bullish run here. But that's how you capture like the full move, but you got to stomach all the pullbacks that happen in between, because this signal could come down here, tick up, come back up here, come down back here, tick up again. All those are going to be pullbacks along the way. Personally, I like to get a profitable trade and stuff it in the bag really quick and just wait for the next setup. Because you never know, like that might not actually play out. A lot of times when you wait for that bigger move, you'll get stopped out at break even and then it was all for nothing. Chat's pretty quiet today. Are you guys trading? You guys making any money today? No, Stealth is. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some coffee. Looks like we're getting another little bit of a bull flag breakout move here. It's a little risky being in that upper power zone near the daily open, though. If you took profit on the daily open, that would have been 70 points on that first bull flag breakout move. Delta is starting to show a little bit of weakness. Those Delta candles are getting a little thinner. If you're going to do a bull flag breakout move, you want to see strength come back in, kind of like what we did here. So this Delta candle I'll change my view so you can see that a little bit easier. But do you see how this delta candle here is bigger than this one? And that's where we get this tick up. That is also when it broke this trend line. That's what you want to see on a bull flag breakout move. Here you get on this candle, you do get this tick up, but do you see how you're losing strength in the delta? So it's a little more risky when you see that. Likelihood of a breakout fake out is higher. And sometimes it just takes a little bit more consolidation, a little bit more time to actually break through it. So we'll keep an eye on it. Delta's actually starting to turn negative now. We're flashing a little orange. Looks like that might have been a breakout fake out. But we're sitting on top of VWAP. We're sitting on top of the 200. And we're right underneath that daily open. So it's kind of a little bit of a pivot point here. You go either way. If we stay under the daily open, the daily candle is going to be red. If we close above the daily open, it's going to be green. That might be obvious to a lot of you guys, but I know when I first thought about that a long time ago, I was like, huh, is that what that really means? Yeah, that's what that means. The daily candle, if you close below the daily open, it's going to be red. And vice versa. Is anybody still on with me? You guys are quiet today. Now keep in mind it is past 10 o'clock Central Time. This is typically, if we are going to start chopping sideways a little bit, this is kind of about the time that typically starts. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up putting in a little bit of a chop here. Go ahead and mark it off so we're aware of it on our radar. CB Ganesh, you're here. Well, at least someone's here with me. Kevin Pardo, you're here. Good. You're doing the dishes, though. Not trading, you're doing the dishes. But you think you're done for the day. I hope you made money today. I'm assuming you did. That delta is very thin. It's rising, but it's thin. That is thin deltas are dangerous. I mean that they're nice for a short period of time if you could take advantage of the weakness in the delta. But if that starts to become extended over an extended period of time, then it is time to walk away. John White just closed a nice 4R on Euro USD. Awesome. Kevin, you're up 388 on your 50K PA. That's good. It's always a good day. We are starting to put in, we're flashing a third lower high on the signal line. Well, now it's starting to turn back up here. Are we finally going to break this trend line? Getting a little bit more strength in the delta, but it's still thinner than I like. Do you only trade NQ? Not only. I prefer to keep it simple and just trade NQ day trading. I trade crypto. Sometimes I trade gold. I used to trade gold a lot more, but not so much lately. When I trade crypto, I use my bots for that because I trade on the hourly time frame and it trades 24/7. And trying to trade the hourly and sitting there and watching charts doesn't really work so well. Not for me anyways. So I trade crypto with my bots, basically doing the same thing that I'm doing here. And but then for day trading, I usually just trade NQ on the 1 minute. Can your bots trade options? They can't at the moment interface with an exchange to actually get in and out of trades, but you can still use the bots to send you alerts. So say you had like multiple indicators that you wanted to line up and send you like a buy or sell signal off of an options chart. You can do that and it'll send you a text message. It'll send you an email and let you know when to make the trade. A lot of people actually use TOMMYBOTS to do just that, where they don't want it to actually put the order in. So you can do that. As long as there's a chart for the option in TradingView, you can do it. That delta is still thinner than I like. So that's a no-go zone for me. Notice how this, what looked like it was a bull flag breakout, is faking out right now. It's failing. All of those lower highs are just pounding it down on the signal line. I'm curious, how many of you guys are here in the United States? Where are you from? I always wonder if people are trading NQ from outside the U.S. I would assume that's more of a U.S. thing. CB Ganesh, you're in Houston, huh? Wilmington, North Carolina, David. Kevin Pardo, Northeast Pennsylvania. Nice. For those of you that don't know, I'm in Stillwater, Minnesota. It's right on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border on the St. Croix River. Used to be a old logging town. They used to log white pine trees, float them down the river. Then they logged all the trees in the area, and so then logging kind of got dried up in the 1800s, and Stillwater turned into a little bit of a ghost town, but it looks exactly the same today that it looked like 100 years ago. Like if you look at old pictures and you look at new pictures, they look almost identical. You know, now you have cars driving down the road instead of horse and buggies, but it's a cool little town here in Minnesota. John White, you're in London, huh? Trading NAS on CFDs. I could see that. Do you trade that more than... I'm assuming you also trade Forex? I was trading Forex a while back, and I would intermix the NAS in there with that. Well, that delta looks like it's trying to roll over, but it's still climbing. Do you see how it's negative, but it's climbing? It's usually a leading indicator. So a lot of times if you look at the slope of the delta, it tells you where, like even though it's negative, it usually tells you what's going to happen soon. So now that we're getting a tick up from the green zone, like that is a potential long here. We still have this consolidation kind of building. Looks like a bigger bull flag scenario here. So this is a valid long entry. It's just a little risky with that thin delta. I prefer there to be a little bit more conviction in that delta. Might go ahead and give this a shot though. And give it a shot on the 8. See if I get picked up here. That's a good strategy, John. FX, DAX, and in the UK and the AM, and then switch to NAS after the US Open or pre-open. Yeah, that works. I was a Forex guy until MetaTrader pulled out of the US. Futures new to me. Yeah, that's kind of when I made the switch as well. I was trading Forex a while back, and then a lot of people were kind of leaving Forex in droves and heading over to futures, and so I started to dabble in that, and I actually prefer futures. I I like trading NQ probably more than anything else. There's a lot of liquidity. Well, am I going to get picked up here, or is the bus going to leave without me? The bus might just go ahead and take off without me. We'll see. When I put my order on the 8 SMA, I typically like to get picked up within a couple candles. Like once it starts to get outside that here, then by that time it's probably too late. I'm going to go ahead and cancel my order. But the actual, if you're just trading the signals on the Cumulative Delta, the entry was here. It was this tick up from the green zone. And this is all detailed in the playbook as the early trend entry. So the first step is this delta cross that you get right there. So you wait for that to happen. You wait for a rising delta to be above this rising confirmation line. And then you wait for that signal to come back down here somewhere in the green zone and tick up, preferably near the lower power zone. That is usually an excellent setup. And I was just trying to get a little bit better of an entry. But anytime you do that, you risk missing the whole trade. So if you're just trading the signal coming right off of that, you would have been in the close of this candle right here at 1021. And you'd currently be up over 30 points. You see what I mean? How even though the delta was thin and negative, the fact that it was rising the whole time, I look at that as a leading indicator. So if you get a buy signal while that's happening, that's usually a good trade. I still am a little confused how that calculation underneath the hood is actually working, because the delta is negative, but the slope is rising. It doesn't really make much sense how you would calculate that, but that's the way it works, and it works really well. So I don't really question it. I just, it's an observation that I see play out over and over again. So whatever Zeiierman is doing there under the hood is really nice. We also have our strength coming back into those delta candles, which is nice to see. Earlier I was talking about this 15 and how, like, technically we're in more of a ranging market condition. So it's hard to really say whether it's bullish or bearish when you're ranging, because both longs and shorts are going to work about, the probability of each is about the same. So I should probably go ahead and just flip this to neutral. And the probabilities are about the same. I tend to flip it to neutral. And the hourly looks all janky. See how we have the thin, spotty delta all throughout here. That's all chop on the hourly time frame. The 5 is looking pretty smooth though. And technically we're still bearish on the 5. We're under that confirmation line. So you want to watch for a tick down here near that upper power zone on the 5. But we are climbing really steadily and it's gaining strength, so that could change. That early trend entry move out of the playbook, that setup, if you took that, you'd be up 58 points now. Delta's still rising, and it's not showing any signs of weakness, so there's still no reason to get out. So yeah, even though I didn't take a lot of these moves today, we've been calling them, and they've all been, I think all of them that we called have actually worked out. This one's still going strong. We're about to tap into this high over here. Looks like we just did, which is actually on a higher time frame. That's going to be a fair value gap. So we might find some. So here's the 5 minute. If I go ahead and mark that out on the 5 minute, we could find some resistance here now that we're dipping into that. That's what that looks like on the 1 minute. So if you wanted to secure a bag, that's not a bad place to take profit. That'd be 68 points since our entry point. We're starting to see a little bit of rejection there. But if you're in this trade and you're waiting for a cumulative delta signal to exit, there still is no exit signal on the indicator itself. In the playbook, there's a whole section on, or a whole chapter on exit strategies. So based off of like what you see the delta doing and based off of other factors, it kind of determines which exit strategy you use. But there's multiple choices, so it sort of all depends on, you know, what your risk tolerance is and whether or not you want to secure a bag more quickly or risk waiting for a bigger move. If I was in this trade here, I would probably be waiting at least for a delta cross. So, meaning wait for the signal line to close underneath the delta. That would be my exit. Because as long as it keeps pushing and the signal stays above that rising delta, there's no reason to exit. Even though it's, tapping into a fair value gap, and that it's going to be running into some resistance up there, potentially. But usually when I set an explicit take profit point based off of a fair value gap or a high or something like that, I usually regret it. Usually if you just wait for the actual signal on the cumulative delta, you do a little bit better. Market's putting in nice moves today, though. I like it today. The ATR is down to 66 now. Earlier, we were at like 130 something. So, and that was, again, for those who came late, joined the stream late, that was the only reason why I didn't take any trades here, because it was just too high. Like, even if you're right in the direction, you can, if your stop isn't wide enough with a high ATR, it's so easy to get run over. So a lot of times it's just better to sit on your hands and wait for that ATR number to come back down. We did barely close under the 8 there, and I think we ended up getting a close below the delta. Well, if it wasn't the prior candle, the current candle that we're sitting at might be the close under the delta. Well, it hasn't closed yet. We have 32 seconds. GB Ganesh, what ATR number do you prefer? Well, my number on the screen is a 4x multiplier of the ATR. So the number I'm used to looking at is the 4x number. So right now it's a 68. I prefer it to be anywhere between 25 and 70. If it starts to get above 70, it starts getting a little too high. 4 and 80 tick stop. So, I mean, as long as you can size down appropriately, it's never really too high. You just have to know that when it starts getting up there, you should start sizing your position down. Okay, so that candle here, that was you could have exited there, which looks like it might have barely closed under that delta, but this one for sure closed under the delta. So if you took that, looks like you would have got 50 points out of that trade. Also, as I was saying earlier, you know how I say the first close or first delta cross that occurs in a power zone is usually a good trade. So it's not in the playbook, but if you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, you could have taken that short right there when it closed below. And looks like it's taking the elevator down. Took the stairs up and the elevator down. You'd be up another 50 points right there if you did that and flipped. That tap into that fair value gap, though, looks like that might potentially be the high there. And as I was saying earlier, the 5 is still technically bearish. Keep that in mind as long as this delta stays under that confirmation line. The signal is in that upper power zone, so if we tick down up here, we could go back into that big downtrend on the 5. Just realized that I was zoomed in too far on the stream. Sorry about that if I had part of the chart cut off. Delta does have that negative slope to it now. It is starting to turn over. However, the confirmation line is still rising. So technically, we should still be looking for longs here. We're starting to flash that tick down on the 5. So we'll see if the 5 delta starts tapering down. And potentially rolling over there. This is what you like if you're trying to capture like the bigger moves. This is what you want to wait for. You want to wait for like the higher time frames to start rolling over in these power zones. So we're ticking down in that upper power zone on the 5. So if we start to get this, keep in mind it's a higher time frame, so it could take longer for it to actually play out on the 1. But as long as you're aware that it's happening, you can start looking for those entries on the 1. You know, so for example, this confirmation line is still heading up. You know, we might not get our confirmation line cross until like, you know, somewhere over here. It might take half hour to an hour. So it could chop sideways here before we actually roll back over. But until that happens, the 1 still takes priority. So if the 1 does not agree with what's going on there on the 5, then you just either sit on your hands and wait, or just take the just keep taking the signals on the 1. So if the 1 triggers a long signal, still take it. Now this was a fairly aggressive candle down. So if it does tick up here, I'm not very interested in taking that as a long, because this, a lot of times what likes to happen is you have this big engulfing candle down, you get this little consolidation up, and then you get another big engulfing candle down. We'll go down another level. So we'll see if this delta wants to keep this negative slope to it. We'll see if the signal wants to pull back up into here somewhere. and then tick down. As long as the delta maintains that negative slope and stays negative, that would potentially be a delta squeeze setup to the downside. And that would coincide with this tick down from the top on the 5. So we'll see if we can get these to line up. Seems really quiet today. Seems like there's not many people trading for some reason. It's a good day. Good day to trade. Maybe YouTube just isn't showing the video as much as it normally does. Be nice to know how that algorithm really works. We did end up getting a tick down here. It's in the green zone. It's too shallow for me. I prefer it to be up here in the red zone. We are back above that 8 SMA, and we're sitting on both the 8 and the 20 EMA. 20 EMA, 8 SMA. So we'll see if that holds as support. See if we find some support there and maybe go up a little bit, but I don't know. She's looking kind of bearish right now. It's 10:46 a.m. here right now, Central Time. It's getting to be about lunchtime in New York, so we could have a little bit of sideways action over the next hour or so. Delta's starting to gain a little bit more strength in that delta. This candle is thicker than the previous. So far that tick down, even though it was in the green zone, so far it's playing out. So we mapped out this move. I wanted to see the signal come into the red zone, but say you were going off of just that tick down, and let's say that you took that. Let's see what you'd be up. Looks like it went from that tick down right there. You know, this is what we were looking for. Would have been 41 points so far. So if you're just trying to scalp that before you saw what you were really looking for, if you're only going for 10, 20, 30 points, you would have got it. Back to VWAP we go. So it looks like that tick down on the 5, we're starting to see some follow through a little bit earlier than I was expecting. If you were just going off that 5-minute signal, let's go to the 5-minute chart, see what that would have looked like. So that 5-minute signal is this tick down right here. So you would have been short there, being the profit. So, I mean, just looking at this chart, I would not be surprised, you know, with this negative confirmation line. We got the tick down from the power zone. I would not be surprised if we continue to drop back down to this. It's like 144 points back down to this order block on the 5, potentially. There's a lot of space there that could get filled. We're back under the daily open, so the daily candle is negative right now. We did tick up from the lower power zone. It was tapering. So Delta's still above that confirmation line, so you could, I mean, technically this is a long setup here on the 1, even though the 5 is still more bearish. So the 2 time frames are kind of fighting each other a little here. Looks like the Delta is going to end up crossing that confirmation line, so I'm more interested in waiting for the next short setup here. It also coincides with the 5. We are ticking down on the 15, so same thing there. That 15-minute candle starting to turn negative. It's flashing a lower high. We're still under that 8 SMA as well, which favors the bears. So if you're trying to anticipate the next move, what I would be looking for is this delta to starting to thicken up to the downside, and then get a tick down and look for an impulsive move breakout setup. That's in the playbook. In order for that to happen, though, this delta has to be getting thicker. It can't be getting, see right now it's tapering thin. We have to see it getting thicker, but it could tick down from anywhere. As long as it's under the delta, it could tick down from the green zone. It could be in the red zone. The other thing that also satisfies is we do have a bear flag setting up here. And so if we get a tick down and that delta is showing more momentum to the downside, That would be also a bear flag breakout entry. See that 5-minute delta, it's starting to show that it's starting to roll over a little bit. It is tapering down. I think I did see a little bit of negative flashing in there. All right. We're starting to flash that tick down. Are we going to be gaining momentum in the delta? That's what I'm looking for. Starting to see a little bit of that. Delta is getting a little stronger the downside. Got about 16 seconds. We want to see how this closes. All right, I am short. And hopefully it is not a fake out. Looks like it might be a fake out. See, this Delta candle, it was a little thicker than the previous one. We got that tick down, but it just turned on a dime. Let's see where we close here. But we are getting a higher low in the green zone, so might have to pull the plug on this one. All right, I pulled the plug. So 16-point loss on that one. So this Delta candle, it was thicker than the previous one, but do you see how it's still like relatively thin? I'd like to see a little bit more conviction in that, so a little more risky when that Delta's thin like that. Well, that's my first loser for the day. Right on schedule with lunch. It's going to be 11 o'clock here. Might be a sign for me to hang it up. Let's see. What was that? Minus 16 points. So still 143 points for the day. Only one loser so far. I left a lot of stuff on the table, actually. You know, if you look back at the stream, everything that we were looking at potentially jumping in, but didn't because that ATR line or value was too high. Still a good day, though. I won't hang it up just yet. I'm going to see how this plays out here. We still might have an entry here. That might have just been a little bump in the road. I mean, technically we still have this bear flag set up. So we'll see if a short presents itself. However, we do have the delta turning positive now. That's not a good sign for the bears. Would have been better off going long here on this higher low, because that is a valid long signal if the delta is tapering down. It's just hard to do that when you see the bear flag sitting there psychologically. Plus, it goes against the 5 minute. Well, so on the 5 minute, let's look at that. Let's say that we do end up ticking up here. This could just simply be making a lower high on the signal on the 5. So if it ends up doing that and we still end up getting this delta kind of rounding over like that, then we might have just been a little too early on that one. So we'll keep an eye on that. Starting to flash a lower, or not a lower high. It's a tick down. It's not in the red zone. It's more near the midline. But the delta is very weak, which favors the bears here. So this bear flag still might end up playing out. Got about 30 seconds. The delta did cross under the confirmation line. This is also in the playbook. You wait for the cross, wait for the signal to pull up into this red zone. If you want to be more aggressive, you can take the green zone tick up if you think it's close enough. I might end up giving that a shot here. I did not pull the trigger on that. I was waiting to see more weakness, but it looks like it's starting to gain a little bit more strength to the upside. The buyers are stepping in a little bit. We're getting this higher low on the signal. Delta's still pretty weak though, so I'd still be waiting for either a lower high on the signal or a tick down from that red zone. The bulls might take control back here though. Temporarily, we'll see. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more time for the move to play itself out. So I'm still looking for that short. Starting to get our lower high now. All right, I just entered. So I am short. I'm going to close this candle. Because we got our, you can barely see it, but it is a lower high tick down. So far, so good. We want to start seeing this delta start to turn down here, negative. That will show the bears stepping back in. This is also still playing out with our tick down from the top of our 5-minute. We're also flashing the tick down on the 15. So everything's falling in line. We are still on top of that VWAP. Something to be aware of. We could still find some support there. I'm going to go ahead and move my stop to break even. Might be a little too early to do that. We'll see. We are ticking up from that green zone again. I want to see more follow through with the bears here. We got to start pushing down. And I stopped out of break even. Now watch it go lower. This happens to me quite a bit actually, where I move my stop to break even a little too soon. Starting to flash positive on the delta now. So that is our first official chop signal. And it is past 11 o'clock, so I think I'm probably just going to go ahead and call it here. Usually if I keep trading after I get the first chop signal, after lunchtime kicks in, that's usually a good time to stop. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here and be back on tomorrow, same time. Probably a little early tomorrow again. So I'll probably be back on at 8:25 Central Time. So if you guys do keep trading, good luck, and we will see y'all again tomorrow. Take care, guys.
Oh, wow, look at that move. It's like one of those big Delta candles. I mean, who even trades those tiny candles anymore? I like big fat candles, I can't deny. When the Delta's green and riding high, when a chart spikes thick with a bullish wick, I'm glued to my screen, that's the trick. I want to bounce quick, can't let it go. Big Delta bars, let that volume show. I'm zooming out, yeah, that's my groove. Catching waves in a Delta move. Wanna trade slow? Nah, too tame. This market's got heat, I'm in the game. Delta skinny, not my taste. Fat candles on my happy place. Oh, traders, let me see that line. When the buyers push, I feel just fine. It's the fat move, no squeeze fake. I'm in this trend with no break. Got entries, stacking tall, no weak signals, I'm all in, y'all. Skinny candles just ain't for me. Big Delta's my golden key. Sitting tight while volume pops. Green wave up won't make me stop. Short candles, nope, they're a bore. Give me fat Deltas, I want more. Like those thick moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through, you know. Then hold, then play, don't you fold. Big Deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right. Big fat candles, can't deny. When the volume surges up so high, skinny trades can take a seat. Big fat Deltas are what I beat. Well, traders low, let me see that life is cause of my happy Delta. Skinny, not my taste. Fat candles on my happy place. Oh, traders, let me see that line. When the buyers push, I feel just fine. It's the fat move, no squeeze fake. I'm in this trend with no break. Got entries, stacking tall, no weak signals, I'm all in, y'all. Skinny candles just ain't for me. Big Delta's my golden key. Big Delta's my golden key. Sitting tight while volume pops. Green wave up won't make me stop. Short candles, nope, they're a bore. Give me fat Deltas, I want more. Like those big moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through, you know. And hold and play, don't you fold. Big Deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right. Like those thick moves, yeah, yeah. I wanna break through, you know. Then hold, then play, don't you fold. Big Deltas fill the chart with might. Skinny moves don't make it right.